in light of the warmer weather that we've been getting here in Australia, we decided that we should make some ice cream. Now this ice cream doesn't use any machine apart from an electric mixer, and you can make it in pretty much 20 minutes or less, depending on what kind of flavour you want to make. So I started with the base, and I used 600 mils of heavy whipping cream. Sometimes it's called thickened cream, double cream, depends where you are in the world as to what it's called. So I used 1 pot of that, and then I whisked that with the whisk attachment in my electric mixer. You can use hand beaters for this if you like, but I just found it easier to use a stand mixer because it's such a big quantity. So I whipped that until it was at soft peaks, because at this point we don't want to over mix it because we are going to be whipping it more a little bit later on. So after the cream was whipped, we took some sweetened condensed milk. You don't have to use sweetened, you can by all means use unsweetened because this is a very, very sweet recipe. But a sweet tooth like me loves the extra sugar, so why not? So I used a 395 gram tin of this. With the quantity of the condensed milk, you can use probably around 400, but you can go about 10 grams less or 10 grams more if that's what it comes in your can. Just use all of it because there's no point leaving 5 grams of sweetened condensed milk in the pot. Anyway, so I poured that into the mixer and kept it mixing really slowly, and then after I'd added all of it and scraped it all out of the tin, I put it up to a higher speed and whipped it to stiffer peaks. After it was whisked to stiff peaks, I added some vanilla essence, and you can add this completely to taste. And then if you just want vanilla ice cream, you can stop here, put it in a container and freeze it for 6 hours or overnight, and there you have some vanilla ice cream. But I continued on to make 3 different flavours. I was going to make coffee, chocolate and caramel swirl, as well as a berry swirl. So I started with the coffee. In Australia we can get this kind of iced coffee syrup thing, which is a very, very condensed kind of coffee. It's a bit like a cordial, but a coffee cordial. So I added about a tablespoon of that, and then I continued to add little maybe half tablespoons afterwards to taste, to make sure that it had the right amount of coffee for the people that were eating it. So I continued to make that, and then I mixed it all together with a spatula, and I poured it into a container, put the lid on, and that's as easy as coffee ice cream is. Next was my chocolate and caramel swirl. Now for this one, you can just leave it at the chocolate flavouring because that is what we do first, but I decided to add in a caramel swirl just to make it a little bit different. So I added in a tablespoon of cocoa powder to a third of my mixture that I had made completely. This of course you can adjust to how much chocolate you want in the mixture. So I mixed that through. It's not really that important that you sift it, but if you really, really don't want the lumps and don't want to spend the time working them out, feel free to sift it. So I worked that through and kept adding little bits to taste. So for my recipe, I needed to keep in mind that I was making a chocolate and caramel flavoured ice cream, which meant that I shouldn't add too much cocoa powder to my ice cream because otherwise it would be a bit too overpowering. Another thing to keep in mind is that if you do add too much cocoa powder, it can get a little bit powdery when you taste it, and you don't want that. So keep it in moderation, continue to taste it with your finger or a little spoon or something as you go along and make it to your taste. I mixed it all through and it was completely combined, and then I poured it into the container that I was using, and I took some top and fill caramel and I microwaved about 2.5 tablespoons of that, and I mixed it to make sure that it was a really smooth consistency, and then I poured it through the top and swirled it with a knife to make it look a bit more swirly. For this you can use caramel sauce for ice cream, the top and fill caramel, or you can make your own. It is completely up to you and how you prefer your caramel. Next, we made a berry swirl flavour. To start off, I took some blueberries and I filled a little tiny saucepan with it, probably about halfway with the frozen blueberries, and I added a teaspoon of sugar just to bring the juices out of the blueberries a little bit better and kind of bring out a bit more sweetness than the tartness that you would usually get from a blueberry. So I put that on the heat, and that had to heat up for about 5 to 10 minutes, and I was stirring it every now and again. You don't need to stir it constantly, but I was stirring it every now and again just to make sure that it wasn't burning on the bottom and not reaching the top, especially because they were frozen. You can use fresh blueberries for this, you can use any kind of berry that you want. I just happen to have some blueberries and they are my favourite fruit. While that was on the stove, I took some dried cherries, and again, the fruit that you use is completely up to you, and I chopped them into tiny little pieces and put them to the side. So I took the last part of my ice cream mixture and I added the 3/4 of the chopped cherries that I had from before into the mixture and mixed them in really thoroughly. I wanted to make sure that there was some at the top of the mixture, some at the bottom. You shouldn't have too much of a problem with it sinking, but just in case, try to lift it up a little bit and be more gentle if you do find that that's happening. I took my blueberry and sugar mixture and I poured it in. I still had little lumps of blueberries, but that didn't matter because that's exactly what I wanted. I wanted different kind of textures in this one. But of course, if you don't want any lumps in yours, continue to cook it down, and you could even blend it with a stick blender just to make sure that it's completely smooth. I cooled that down and then poured it into my ice cream to make sure that it wouldn't melt. And then I mixed it through, but not too thoroughly because I didn't want my ice cream to all be one colour. I wanted to make sure that I still kept that swirl element in there. After really briefly mixing it and just making sure that I got everything off the bottom, I poured it into my container, smoothed out the top, and sprinkled the rest of those cherries that we saved from before over the top just to make it look a little bit nicer. Put the container on. So for all these recipes, you need to refrigerate them for 6 hours, or to be safe, overnight, which is what I did, because if you do try to scoop them beforehand, they get a little bit soft and you can't really do anything with them. I did find that with the berry one, which was, by the way, my favourite, that the berry syrup kind of mixture had gone a bit icy, but that was totally fine and that's exactly what I was going for. But just in case that's not what you like, there's a little side note for you. So to finish them, I put a cute little label on top and I stuck them into the freezer for 6 hours or overnight. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you want to see more flavours for this ice cream base, make sure you leave them down below and give this video a thumbs up so that I know that you've liked it. I am planning to do a different kind of ice cream really close in the future, so if you have any other flavours that you'd like me to try, make sure you comment down below. Make sure you subscribe to my channel, check out my previous videos, and all of my social media will be down below and linked in the description box. I'll see you next time. Bye!